Hey guys, we're going to try this one more time and see if we can get this to work. See a few of you popping back on there. Appreciate your patience and understanding. See if we can get Dr. Martin in here. You guys are troopers. There's like 30 of you already back on, which is awesome. All right. See if Dr. Martin can get hopped on here. There she goes. Add her. She's connecting.
Hey.
Everybody absorb the moment. There she is. Dr. Martin, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. I am so sorry for the technical difficulties. Once you guys logged off and opened it back up, there was the button that we needed all along.
Yeah, the sad thing is I drug everybody through a half an hour of my diatribe when we should have done that in the first place. So hope everybody can forgive me.
There was a lot of good information there, especially on diet. I think it never hurts to have more good information on diet because that can prevent so many health problems that we see down the road.
I'm jaded in my opinion, but I appreciate you saying that. Hey guys, again, I want to introduce everybody to Dr. Ann Martin. I've been fortunate to know Dr. Martin for a couple of years now, and not only is she just an amazing source of information, she's just a heck of a nice lady. So we're super excited that she's agreed to take some time away from her busy life and saving bunnies. So we're going to dig right into it, Dr. Martin. So I'm going to throw out this first question. It's a big one. I'm going to warn you. So this question actually came from Badass Bunny Rescue. It came from Cookie Dough Buns, and it really is, there are so many different theories and ways to bond rabbits. What is your standard method, and what is your standard process?
Yeah. So it really is an art and it's not a science. So really the two rules are, one, do everything you can to not let the rabbits get hurt, right? We don't want anybody to get hurt. And two, have a lot of patience and creativity, because really sometimes the rabbits can be smarter than we are about certain things. And for those of us who have tried to cover all your electrical cords in the house, sometimes we discover that the rabbits are a little smarter than we are the first time around. And it takes a couple of iterations to figure it out. So the same goes with bonding. The first thing that we might try with bonding might not be the technique that works for our particular rabbits or this particular. Try different ideas and different ways of trying to get the rabbits together. So, and having patience about it. So we usually tell our adopters that we expect the average bonding is going to take about 2.5 weeks. So everybody's heard of someone whose rabbits, you just put them together and they fell in love and it was love at first sight and you never have to separate them. And that is super, super rare. And we don't want anybody to expect that. Even if their first bond was like that. So maybe they have a bunny who lost their friend and the first bond was super easy and they're expecting that the second time around it's going to be super easy. But every relationship with rabbits is different. And so you just can't expect that the second time around you're going to have that same experience. So we want everybody to be thinking that it's going to take at least 2.5 weeks of doing supervised sessions with the rabbits in your home before there's the possibility that they're going to be living together full time. So it means that you want to set up a separate enclosure for your new rabbit at home, and be ready for them to be living separately. What we recommend in that time period is to have them set up in enclosures like exercise pens. We really like exercise pens, and have them set up side by side so they can see each other and smell each other. And sometimes they do a little bit of passive bonding, even when we're not working with them, because they can see and smell and do behaviors together. So one rabbit goes in the litter box and the other rabbit goes in their litter box. And even though they're separate, they're still spending that time together and building a relationship. So getting set up for it to be a little bit of a long haul. One mistake that we see people make all the time is they will let their bunny at home, who's maybe used to being free roaming in the house, or maybe they just have a lot of out of pen time, and they set up those two pens side by side, and then they let out their bunny to run around, and the bunny's running around the X pen of the new bunny. And it just sets the bunny off because in that space, and the bunny's kind of teasing them a little bit, like, this is my house, this is my and the bunny who's in the enclosure can get resentful of that. So we see that it actually takes longer for the rabbits to bond if you're letting them out to exercise where the new bunny can see it. So what we recommend is having the two X pens side by side, but during that 2.5 or weeks, that's an average. It could be a month or more, it could be 2 months or more, but during the period of time where you're doing active bonding sessions with the rabbits, not letting them run around each other's enclosures and taking them to a location where they can't see each other when they're going to be out, exercising. And then doing bonding sessions where you're taking them together in the most neutral space that you have available. For some people, that's in their bathroom. Maybe their bunny likes to run around the whole house. It can be really hard to find neutral space. Maybe you have a patio that the rabbit doesn't go on. And if you live in an area without RHDV, you can set that up to be safe and bunny proof, where you could do introductions in a neutral space. I think in the worst case scenario, you don't have any space in your house that's neutral. If you have a friend, and of course with COVID, it makes it more difficult, but if you have a friend that doesn't have rabbits, then that's going to be a neutral space. And, you could even borrow their garage, or if they're going to be away from the house, maybe there's some period of time where you could borrow a room and have all the windows open and clean it before they leave, before they come home, just so you have something totally neutral where you're introducing the rabbits.
Yeah, that neutral space seems to be, it doesn't matter what the species is, that's really key, is taking away that stress that I own, it's my spot, and kind of forcing them. And that kind of ties to, I've been asked before about stress bonding. Is that something that you've heard before? What are your opinions on that? And that was something that somebody actually asked.
Yeah, so I think the idea with stress bonding was originally that you would introduce a stressful situation so that the rabbits would kind of look to each other for support. And the thing with bonding is we don't want to stress the rabbits so much in the process that they either get sick or are profoundly uncomfortable. I think what's useful is to think of a novel experience that you can introduce. It's not necessarily a stressful experience, but it's something novel. So it takes the rabbit out of their everyday experience where they may have more of a routine reaction to things, and you create a new experience with two rabbits where they're having that experience together. So you can think of it like people going on dates, right? Like we like to go on dates to like an amusement park or a fancy restaurant, or someplace that's really new and that's exciting. So for us at House Rabbit Society headquarters, what we find works really well as this novel experience that's not too stressful is a pet stroller. So we'll have a pet stroller and we'll put both of the bunnies who are getting to know each other in the pet stroller. And I think for a lot of people, it seems really counterintuitive. If you have two rabbits that you're not sure if they like each other, that you're going to put them in such a small space together. But we find that in a small space, the rabbits are less likely to fight because they know that they can't get away from each other. And by just gently strolling them either around the building or around the block, they're having all the smells and sounds and all this new information that's all around them, but they're doing it together. So again, they're kind of looking to each other as like a bunny who speaks the same language that they're sharing the experience with, but it's not necessarily a stressful, scary experience. So I think for me, that's kind of how I think about it. Exactly. Yeah. And the pet stroller, it's pretty neutral. If you already have a pet stroller, you could clean it really well. If there's anything you can throw in the wash, you throw those parts in the wash, wipe it down with vinegar or disinfectant, and you may be able to make it more neutral. And I would try that. And what we found is with the stroller, we use it a lot. We'll put the bunnies in the stroller and then we'll put them in the pen together, and then do a hands-on bonding session in the pen. And then if they start to get like a little testy with each other, we'll put them back in the stroller again, and we'll just do a couple minutes in the stroller and then we'll go back in the pen. And we've found that using the pet stroller really helps to speed up that bonding process.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It actually kind of links to, one of the other common questions we got had a lot to do with kind of fighting versus normal nipping, that bonding nipping versus that, like, oh my gosh, they're going to town on each other. Now what do I do? So how do you kind of help people frame what's healthy? And there's going to be that social, that physical, and when does it become unhealthy?
Absolutely. Yeah. So nipping is a normal part of the bonding process, and it is very common. You're going to see a couple of tussles during the bonding process. And we always warn our adopters about this because we want them to be prepared that when they see it, it doesn't mean that the rabbits hate each other, and it doesn't mean that the bond is not going to work. It's a normal part of the process that I would say most rabbits, you're going to see either some kind of butt biting, nipping, or a or two. I think it's really important that when we're going into a bonding process, that we are taking precautions to just being aware that we could get bitten as we're helping with this bonding process. So you're going to want to wear some long sleeve clothes. Maybe you want to wear some gloves or oven mitts. Some people use oven mitts. Or I have one volunteer who likes to use a badminton racket to be able to separate. But you want to be prepared to be able to separate the rabbits if they're fighting. And what we see when they're about to start a serious fight is they might lift their tail. That's a common thing. And they might start to circle in a tornado. So we don't want the two rabbits to start circling. If you see them start to do that, you want to kind of get your hands in there and separate them. But that's that moment where if you're not wearing long sleeves or you're not wearing gloves and they start to fight, you can get a big bite that will break the skin and cause bleeding. And they're not trying to do it to hurt you. They don't even see that it's you in that moment. It's very, very scary for them. So it's really important to also, in protecting yourself, you're going to be a lot more confident about the bonding. One of the things that we often see that makes bonding harder is the person is very nervous. And it's hard not to be nervous because it's your rabbit, it's your baby, right? And but when you're really nervous, rabbits pick up on all of those signals. And so your breathing might get faster, your heart rate might get faster, you're going to clench your muscles a little bit. And rabbits are experts at body language communication, and their hearing is much more acute than ours. So they're picking up on all these signals that you're really nervous. And in nature, they keep themselves safe by reading the cues of their family members. So they're reading your cues that you're freaked out, and then all of a sudden they're freaked out, and then they don't trust this new friend because that's who's freaking everybody out. So, so it's really important to take like deep. Want to calm yourself, and you want to make sure that you're wearing, your gloves and your long sleeves, and so that you're not worried about being bitten, and that you're nice and calm regardless of what happens. And just as an anecdote on that, one time I was working on bonding 4 rabbits together, and these were my rabbits, and I decided to put my face down with all the rabbits. So I put my face right where all the rabbits' faces were. And I realized it's really scary. Your face is so vulnerable. Your eyes are right there, and that's what the rabbits are experiencing when they're bonding.
Well, and again, it still goes back to that whole predator-prey mentality. You know, these animals, like you said, are constantly evaluating their environment and saying, where is there a threat? Because in the wild, I mean, that's how they survive. And so even though we move them into our households, even though we're controlling the environment, right, and we're bonding them for their own benefit, it doesn't change natural physiology. It doesn't change the fact that they're thinking, is this a threat? And if it is, you know, how do I respond? It kind of ties to this next question, and this question came from a couple of people. First of all, it came from Sexy Potatoes 7399, which I wanted to say. Evelyn Moore is in Miscasa, but they asked, does the sex matter for pairing, male, female, 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 male, male? And tied to that, what about bonding multiple pairs? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's a super common question.
Yeah, I think the personalities of the rabbits honestly makes more of a difference than the sex of the rabbits. A lot of people will start with male and female pairs to try that out, you know, if you're trying different dates with different rabbits. But I know a lot of rabbits that are same-sex pairs that love each other and groom each other and enjoy each other's company, whether it's male-male pairs or female-female pairs. I will say that some people feel that female-female pairs can be a little bit more challenging, but again, it really depends on the individual rabbits. I had a female, she's now passed on, but I took her to House Rabbit Society to take her on a bunch of speed dates with different rabbits. And I tried several different rabbits, and she instantly was chasing after the rabbits, trying to bite them. And on number 8, it was a female, and she really liked her. And it was just one of those where the difference was noticeable. And, you know, it wasn't, I tried 8 rabbits. I couldn't have guessed which one she would have liked.
Exactly. Well, and I think it's important too, and I kind of talked about this early, you know, they're all individuals, right? I mean, we can say, oh, it's a lion head and oh, it's whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like saying we're all humans. And so to your exact point, you can set them up for success and do all these different things. You still need to remember they're an individual and giving them that opportunity. You know, I mean, this isn't like predetermined marriage and arranged marriage. I mean, give them that natural bond. Yeah. This kind of ties to it. Susan, thanks so much for asking this question. What about size difference? We just rescued a meat rabbit who escaped and was on her own in the wild for months. She's in quarantine, but she's so much bigger than my existing mini bunny. I'm not sure it's safe for them to live together. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Martin?
I personally have had a pair who was a 2.5-pound dwarf and an 8-pound rabbit, and they completely loved each other. We never had any issues with the size difference. I know a couple of rescues that have had, you know, some mixes that were even bigger size differences than that, where they had, you know, little dwarf bunny and a giant, like a Flemish giant type rabbit. Yeah, I certainly know of, you know, pairs like that. And there's something kind of adorable about that too. So I would say, you know, try to be super open-minded and see if the rabbits like each other. I would say the easiest rabbits to bond tend to be rabbits with special needs. For whatever reason, even if it's one rabbit with special needs with a healthy, able-bodied rabbit, tends to be easier, and 2 rabbits with special needs tends to be pretty easy. Senior rabbits tend to be easier to bond, and rabbits who've had a friend before tend to be easier to bond. Those rabbits are better at body language. They know how to understand the other rabbit. The rabbits that might have a harder time are the ones that have been a single bunny for many years. And the last time they spent time with other rabbits was probably when they were a baby. And so they don't have all those the vocabulary that other rabbits have, who've had a friend before, to know what body language is threatening and what body language is friendly. And it just takes them, you know, a minute to learn the cues and the signals. But to have had a friend before, that tends to go faster.
And even just to your point of learning those cues, you know, I mean, those cues aren't just naturally lodged into their brain. That's that social interaction. And if they didn't get that early on, or even to this point where they came from a horrible environment, we've got to realize they're a rabbit, but there's still a lot of learned behaviors and learned cues that go along with that. Yeah, so this kind of pivots into the next question, and I answered this kind of, but I really want your input. Hopefully, I didn't give people bad information. Can I bond my rabbit to another animal like a guinea pig or a dog? And Violet underscore the bunny is the one who asked this. We had a couple of other people chime in. Like, what are your thoughts on that interspecies interaction, so on and so forth?
Yeah, yeah. So rabbits, they have a pretty unique language with each other. It's a nonverbal one. And guinea pigs and dogs and people, for that matter, we don't really speak their language as much as we might try to. And so I think rabbits really enjoy having a companion that's also a rabbit that speaks their language, that understands kind of their life experience and what they're going through. And it's adorable to see them cuddle together and groom each other. And when they're with other animals of different species, they can still have a relationship.
Right.
And we always want to make sure that it's a safe relationship, especially with dogs. You want to make sure it's very closely supervised, especially in the beginning. But the dog is not going to speak the rabbit's language in the same way that another rabbit will. And the dog may have a different kind of pattern during their day of behavior and what time, whereas rabbits, they're crepuscular. They're going to follow the same daily routine together. And so, they often will go in the litter box together and nap together, enjoy dinner together. These are all things that bring them enjoyment, being able to do it together with another rabbit. And even pigs who are similar in terms of their diet and similar in some ways in terms of their health, they still don't speak the same language. And there's some risk there also of respiratory disease.
In the guinea pig with rabbits. Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head, which is one thing I didn't say. It's really differentiating bond and relationship. I mean, we talk so much about the human animal bond, and that's really probably kind of a misnomer, to be honest with you, because it really should be the human animal relationship. And one of my favorite pictures, a client who's 90-pound German Shepherd is literally curled up with the mini Rex, and that they connected over years. But I think what's key to what you said, they don't communicate in the same way, but it doesn't mean they can't have a mutually beneficial relationship. It's just not going to be a bond with the same cues, the same innate behaviors, and understanding that. And while rabbits can have an amazing relationship with humans, it's never going to take the place of that bond and the power of that bond. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we're all home probably more than we were before COVID. But when you're out at school or work during the day, it's really nice when your rabbit has a friend because they have somebody to keep them company and cuddle. So you don't have to worry that your rabbit's lonely when you're away from the house. So that always gives me a lot of comfort and peace of mind that my rabbit is having a really happy life because they have a friend even when I'm not there.
And I know none of the almost 100 people joining us, think this way, but what I find is clients kind of like, I leave for work, I don't think about what my rabbit's doing. And so what I challenge them to say is, imagine that you were left in the house by yourself all day long and expected to be happy-go-lucky. I mean, we need to think about that totality of their life and what are they doing physically and emotionally and mentally in those times where we're not around them. So we're going to kind of, skip on to this next question here. So and this is a good question, and I honestly, kind of don't have the answer. How do I know if my rabbits are actually bonded, right? And like, how do I know that they're successfully bonded?
So basically, my kind of metric when you're doing a bonding process is once they've spent the first overnight together, at that point forward, I don't separate them. So let's say I've done a nice long supervised bonding session with the rabbits and they've been in the pen all day long, and I've been able to pop out of the pen, still in earshot. Maybe I go into the kitchen and grab a glass of water and come back and go to the bathroom and come back. And the rabbits have been good for hours in the pen together during the bonding session. At that point, I would have them go overnight together in the pen, and I would sleep next to the pen. So either have the pen next to the sofa or next to my bed, so that, if they were chasing each other, having a tornado in the middle of the night, I would wake up and help them with the situation. But if they make it through that overnight, and some nights, I spent most of the night awake working on a bonding situation, but if they stay together through the night, then I will usually leave them together from that point forward. It's important not to expand their space too quickly once they've had that first overnight. think that's a mistake a lot of people make as well, is that they're like, okay, great, they're sharing the same pen together and it's been a day or two, and then they want to let them out to free roam the whole house. And it gives them too much space too soon. And they go to opposite sides of the room or opposite sides of the house, and then when they see each other again, they don't necessarily recognize that it's the same bunny that they've been spending time with up close, and then they can get into a fight. And so during that bonding process, I usually keep them in the pen after they've spent the night together. Keep them in the pen together for a few days to a week, and gradually expand that space and the exercise space bigger and bigger. So you don't do too much too soon. You want the rabbits to be able to move towards each other and then away from each other and recognize that it's the same rabbit, and not lose sight of them and forget who they are and they've been apart for 8 years. So when they can stay together permanently is a different question than like when they're fully in love bonded, right? So I would keep them together once they've done the overnight, but their relationship will continue to grow and blossom, sometimes for months or a year or longer, and you will see new developments in their relationship. And you can see that with people too. As people get older and change, their relationships will grow. So I wouldn't be discouraged if you think the rabbits don't have that deep of a relationship and they've been living together for a month or two, because you do see that to grow and develop over time. And do enrichment activities with them to, again, create novel situations to help facilitate growth of their relationship as well.
We're running a little short on time, but I actually had a question that we didn't get asked, but it's a question that I've been asked, so I'm going to be a little selfish here. And I hate to bring this one up, but I think we're all going to be faced with this, and I've never known how to answer this. When you have a bonded pair and one of those animals passes away, I know a lot of owners have seen the benefit of that bond. They know how paramount it is, but they're struggling with that emotional disconnect. Not only that they've lost their animal, but they know that that animal has lost its mate. And so what are your general recommendations to kind of get a feel for what's the right time? What's the right next step? And I know that that's as gray as you can get, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, because that's something as a veterinarian who unfortunately is a lot of times a part of that end of life decision. The first thing I want to do is give them good information, because I know that client's thinking about it. Even if it's emotionally hard, it's charged. What would be your thoughts?
Yeah. What I can say is that the rabbit is usually ready before the people are for a new friend. Rabbits are usually ready for a friend, almost immediately after their friend passes. They're lonely, and most rabbits have had a friend before, are open and receptive to a new friend. So for us, sometimes it's really hard for us to be ready to bring a new friend home. And nobody's going to replace the rabbit that you lost, but it's good to be open to a new friend for your bunny. One thing that I like is I really like having a trio, because then if you do have a loss in a trio, you still have a pair that has each other and they're there to support each other. So I've had a number of trios over the years, either 2 males and a female, 2 females and a male. I think I've had 3 females at one point. So again, I'm not so worried about the sex combination of the 3 rabbits, but I do really like the social dynamic of the trios. But also, if somebody passes away, you still have 2 rabbits that are there for each other. And I feel like they're able to move through that grief faster. With bonding a rabbit with a rabbit who's recently lost a friend, I would say if they just seem like really, really angry at the new friend, maybe you just want to wait another week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to try that introduction again. Maybe just have them side by side in pens so they can get to know each other. You can swap their litter boxes so they can get to know each other's smells. You can give them stuffed animals and switch the stuffed animals between the pens, again, to get to know each other's smells, and have a surrogate friend to groom, and then try again after a couple of weeks, because maybe it just was a little bit too soon for the rabbit. but most of the time the rabbit is ready really quickly.
So one last question that Tracy and I'm Talaraco asked, I probably said that wrong. Sorry, Tracy. So would you bond 2 and then add a third, right? Or, you know, if you have a single, do you try to bring all of them kind of in? And that's a great question, Tracy.
Yeah, so it's tough. So I would say with groups, if your goal is to get, like, let's say there are you have 3 single rabbits at home and your goal is to get them to be a bonded trio. I don't think there's an advantage to try to bond 2 of them first and then add the third. But if you have a single bunny and you're looking to have a trio, I would look to bonded pairs. Like I would adopt a bonded pair to bond my single rabbit in
Makes
with.
sense. Okay.
Bonded pair, again, is going to have really good body language, and they've both been bonded before, so they're probably going to be easier to bond than even with a single rabbit who, you know, maybe not has all those that body language knowledge.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to thank Dr. Martin for hopping on and sharing information. Thank you for being patient, getting IT and all that technology figured out. For any of you guys who have not checked out rabbit.org, I literally personally go to the website all the time. It is full of a massive amount of information, everything from bonding information to nutrition to greens. The organization just is truly rooted in the care and well-being of rabbits, and it's a great resource. If you're thinking about wanting to add a munchkin, maybe making it a trio, also too, check out their website. They can connect you with local rescues. You know, it's really important that, you know, a lot of people call themselves rescues, but, you know, are they really keeping the best interest of the animal? And if you're looking at a rabbit, checking that out and kind of going through rabbit.org will really help you to know who you're working with has got their best interest at heart. But again, Dr. Martin, really appreciate your time. I've learned a lot, which is not really saying that much, but it's been really helpful for me. For all of those that are out there, continue the questions. I see a lot of people sharing information with each other. I mean, Dr. Martin and I's goal is just to start the conversation. So keep that going. Yeah, keep sharing information and let us know that we can do anything in the future. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks again, Dr. Martin. Everybody have a great,
thanks so much.
Have a great evening. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.